So, welcome to our podcast, our Zora in Jacksonville podcast. My name is Jonathan Grant. I am an assistant professor of sociology and Africana Studies in the Department of Sociology, Anthropology, and Social Work here at University of North Florida.
And I am Jessica Chandras. I am also an assistant professor. I am an assistant professor of anthropology in the same department, and sociology, anthropology, and social work at UNF. And
yeah, I guess we can start.
Basics.
Yeah, I guess we can talk about just our research.
Yeah.
This particular YouTube series that we have going on is about a project that we've been working on about Zora Neale Hurston's life in Jacksonville. And we'll talk more about that in a second, but right now we'll just go into our intros. So my name is Jonathan Grant. I'm originally from Jacksonville, Florida, where I was born and raised, Duval County, on the north side of Jacksonville. And my PhD is in sociology. I do have a background in African-American studies. And a lot of my research really looks at race, class, and place. So I look at race and class, particularly in predominantly Black areas, consider Black meccas, Black safe havens. So a lot of my research looks at that. I also look at education inequality as well. So some of my research also looks at educational inequality, access to education, and And then I also do a lot of research and writing on African-American studies and religion as well, race and religion. So this is kind of a quick introduction about me. My colleague, Jessica, want to talk a little bit about what you do?
Yes. So very different, but I think it's wonderful that we've found these overlaps in our work and interests. I'm a linguistic anthropologist. My research is, my primary research is based in India, and I work on topics of multilingual education, identity, caste, class, so many of the sociological concepts that cross over nicely in our department. How I got interested in this is through more of the history of anthropology, so working on teaching and then explaining how Zora Neale Hurston's history fits in with our discipline. I can say more on that later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff, good stuff. Well, we also have a guest who's in the background, but will probably be joining us a little bit later, our research assistant. So you can just kind of tell us your name and just a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in the project. And then after that, I think you can start talking about it, and then we'll just go from there to the questions.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Kennedy. I am currently a senior here at UNF. I'm originally from Jersey, but I am here double majoring in English and Africana Studies. And that is the whole reason I got into this research with Zora Neale Hurston, because it is a perfect overlap of both of my majors.
Nice. And Kenny's been really helpful, helping us out, making us modern as old folks.
Getting us up to date.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, definitely. So.
Yeah. So the project overall, just a little information that I have in my notes about the project is about Zora Neale Hurston and tracing her time in Jacksonville. So she lived here for a couple pretty big formative periods of her life. But those periods, especially the first one when she was younger, is known as the lost years. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So not a lot of is known. She was an adolescent, and then later she lived in Jacksonville working with the WPA and collecting stories with her anthropology background. But there's not a lot of evidence, I guess, that we have found, evidence and artifacts about her life to give a lot of detail to her time in the city. So that's how we got started with that initial interest.
Yeah. And so as we continue, this project is ongoing. We've gathered a lot of data, a lot of interview data, a lot of archival data from Washington, D.C., right?
Yeah.
And a couple other places. And so we're definitely looking to expand just our topic into just kind of like mobility and identity, right? And how people's identities shape not only where they are, but also where they move to. So we may be, playing with that as well as we continue to see where this research is going. A lot of times you can start in one way and then
Yep.
the work takes you somewhere else, but you want to tell the most accurate and, the most true to life story that you can tell. So yeah, we're really excited about this project. I think you hit the nail on the head. And I don't know, we may be able to even bring on some other people who also were like Zora Neale Hurston, who were also very mobile, but Jacksonville really shaped their work and their identity and the way in which we understand Black people in the early to mid 20th century. So we may be even doing that as well. But we are starting with Zora Neale Hurston as our basis.
Yeah, that's actually been a really exciting thing to come out of this, that there are other people who have sparked our interest in similar topics. So more to come about that.
Yeah.
But this podcast is hopefully going to be a record of, as we do the research, some themes and topics that come out of it, a way for us to have that record for ourselves and also share the process of research. This is really fun, unique, community-engaged research that we're getting to do locally. And yeah, things that we can explore thematically as things emerge. And we've been working on this for a year, so it's a good example of slow research. Research should be slow and careful.
Right.
And ours is slow and careful. It's a good thing.
Yeah, but we're getting there. So I guess we can go ahead and get started with the questions. We don't want to hold you too long.
So what are your areas of expertise?
Yes. I can go first, and because I think you're going to have more that goes into the next part really nicely. So as I said, my area of expertise is linguistic anthropology, research in India. So two things there that I thought about coming into this project. My research in India is obviously difficult to get students involved in. So where I've taught before, coming to UNF, I've done some community engaged projects where I get in touch with community partners and try to connect students to learning mostly methods in anthropology, observations, note-taking practices, and interview techniques. So that was something I was thinking about here when I came to UNF a couple years ago. I'm going into my third year. And I thought, where's an area where I can put my skills to use that could also bring in students? So my areas of expertise with that would be the ethnographic detail, the ethnographic research, and then my interest in education and teaching about power dynamics, identity, subjectivity. Zora Neale Hurston comes into quite a few of my lectures, and she's an amazing figure in anthropology for her legacy that was kind of forgotten for a while, and then for her, I think, what she's now being remembered for and stands for in what anthropology's tried to fix about itself. So that's the other side. And being a linguistic anthropologist, Hurston did some really interesting things with language in her writing. That's just kind of the cherry on top with connections to my research and interests.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that language part that's one thing I oftentimes bring out in my lectures about Zora Neale Hurston and how true to life she was with the language and doing her best to preserve that language and the musicality of the language, particularly of Black folks in the South. And so I definitely think you bring that, just your formalized knowledge on that as a linguistic anthropologist. So that definitely helps our research study a whole lot.
Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. So I think one of the things I bring from a personal standpoint, I think, is being a Jacksonville native. And so I think that definitely helps in just knowing the city and the fact that, my family has lived in this city for generations, going back to the early 20th century. And so there are some things that sometimes, with a lot of Black history, a lot of things have not been preserved, whether it be from vigilantes, right? Like white vigilantes coming in, kind of destroying some of the things that we tried to preserve as a community, as well as just not having great archival processes over time that hasn't been able to, to sustain. And so a lot of our history is oral, right? Oral history and just things that our aunties and grandmas and grandpas, uncles kind of talk about over the dinner table, or, you find out at a funeral what happened with certain things. And so some of that we've actually been able to utilize, right, in this research, and those oral history and those stories that we can kind of use to contextualize the things that we read and that we're finding in the archival works and in those documents. So I do bring that. I also bring more formally my degree in African American Studies, particularly Black folks in the South. And so having a very good understanding of not only Black life and Black culture in the South, but also having a really good understanding of migration and migration patterns, I think is what I bring, my understanding of place and placemaking and how place and identity work together. And so a lot of my research deals with that. In shameless plug, I have a forthcoming book that also deals with race and place. And so bringing all of those things together, I think, I definitely think you, from an anthropologist standpoint, understand Zora Neale Hurston is also an anthropologist there. And then my understanding of African American studies and placemaking, I think bridging those things together, I think definitely helps us have a really good, a really good dynamic team.
Yeah.
I guess also Rosa.
Yeah,
We can
yeah. We can
Rosa.
I can talk a little bit about my anthropology colleague, but she is both of our colleagues in our department. Dr. Rosa DiOrio is a professor of anthropology, and she's also our third counterpart on this project. What she's brought to the project so far, and her interests have been about commemoration, memory making, selections in civic engagement around memory, and who and what gets memorialized and commemorated,
Yeah.
and why.
Yeah.
And so she has a long history in Jacksonville, moving here for her work at UNF as well, and she brings a new perspective from anthropology, from my perspective in the discipline, and has really helped, I think, to ground and root this project in the Jacksonville locality as well.
Absolutely, definitely.
All right. Well, you both briefly mentioned why you're interested in this topic, but what made you want to be a part of this project?
Well, I think you brought this project to me, Jessica. I think you
did,
a
yes.
long time ago.
I know, over a year ago.
Yeah. You brought this project to me.
Why'd you say yes?
Yeah, why did I say yes? So, as professors, we, people, email us about projects all the time, and some things may align with our research interests. Sometimes it may be timing. So all those things kind of have to work together for us to, devote as much time as you have to seeing something through. Honestly, I think one of the main reasons for me, it depends on who's on the project. So I really have to get a good feeling about the person. And, since we've, met and worked together and came into the department, I think you came a year after me. I just always had a good relationship with you. I just always felt comfortable working with you. And the conversations that we would have, and just the way you were organized and your leadership skills. And so
Thanks.
that was definitely something that drew me to the project. I'm a fan of Zora Neale Hurston. I've read a lot of her works. Obviously Their Eyes Are Watching God, Moses, Man on the Mountain. What's it called? Baccaroon, I think is the...
Barracoon.
Barracoon, yes, Barracoon. I read Barracoon. So I read plenty of Zora's works. Songs of Solomon, I read that book. I have some of them in my library. And so I'm a Zora stan. So as soon as I knew we were going to do that, but specifically talk about her life in Jacksonville, as a Jacksonville native and as a person who came back, I just recently moved back here from Atlanta. And I wanted to give something back to the city. That was one of the things that I talked to my chair in my department about as I was transitioning here, that I wanted to make an impact in my city in some way. And so this was just a perfect opportunity, right, for me to, perfect opportunity to come together, learn more about the city I'm from. And, hopefully, if there is a, after that, I've left a mark, on Jacksonville. So
That's so nice to hear. That's great. I thought of this project. It was something I wanted to look into. I wasn't sure exactly what shape it would take. But when I moved here in 2022, I was a little bit surprised that there wasn't more celebration of Zora Neale Hurston in the city. I was really excited to move here for her history. You've definitely read more Hurston than I have, but with what I've read and knowing her history in anthropology, I was really excited to live in a place where she has lived as well. And then moving here, I was kind of like, okay, so Eatonville really claims her. St. Augustine has some stuff also about her time there. But that doesn't mean that Jacksonville can't have something too. And I didn't see too much of that. Talking with people, learning that maybe it wasn't so much of a well-known detail even about her life that she lived here, especially for a couple periods of her life. So I thought maybe I can have a little bit of a part in changing that. Maybe there's something I can do to contribute to knowledge about her, using the skills of anthropology, using my interest in community engaged learning and research, and yeah, especially in learning about Jacksonville for myself. So as a new community member here, I didn't know much about the city, and it's been a wonderful way for me to learn about where I'm living, the history broader, as we said, beyond just Zora Neale Hurston. So my learning about the city, I think, is paralleled really nicely to this project and how we're broadening the project out and learning a lot more about, just history, different time periods, different notable figures. Yeah, I think that was really the motivation of what I wanted to look into, and knowing that I couldn't do it alone. I didn't want to do it alone, and wanted to reach out to my colleagues' expertises as well, that we're stronger together.
Absolutely. I think actually that might be a good question for you, Kennedy. Like, why you decided to. I know as a student, it's like, oh, there's an opportunity and different things like that, and having the fellowship opportunity as well. But was there anything else, I think, that made you excited about being a part of this project?
I think it was honestly just like how I've been raised. Like I was raised reading a lot of like Black authors. So I was familiar with Zora Neale Hurston's work. Moving here from Jersey, I didn't know that she lived here in Jacksonville. So it's that coupled with the fact that I am double majoring English and Africana studies, and she is a notable Black woman author. I thought that would be a great opportunity for me to research more into her. And studying her has been such a blessing. Like it really helped me realize what I want to do with my life and essentially follow in her footsteps. And she has essentially been a guideline for me to follow. So that's kind of why I wanted to get into this research.
Good.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
She's so inspirational on so many levels and continues to give us so much inspiration.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. Is there anything you hope to come from this collaboration, or are there any aspects of this project so far that you're particularly excited about?
You want to answer that? I think I need some time to
Sure,
remember all the stuff that we've gathered over the year. But
so this podcast episode is meant to kind of lay the foundation for the rest of the episodes. As we're talking and as I'm listening to you both, I'm already thinking about, I want to talk about that, or we should definitely bring that in, and then realizing like, okay, not with this, not right now. Keep the audience on the hook for future episodes.
Right.
But I think what I hope comes from this collaboration is something in the community and in the campus community that can commemorate and teach about this period of history in Jacksonville, in Northeast Florida, and about the amazing figure and contributions of Zora Neale Hurston and other notable figures, her contemporaries, who have very similar trajectories and histories of movement and identity formation that complement the city also forming into an urban center as well. I hope that something like that comes out that we can point to and just say like, hey, this is where you can see this. You can see the evidence here. You can learn from this. What I have been particularly excited about so far is really getting to know community partners in the city. We've met, and we're going to talk about that in another episode, but we've met some amazing people, just really dedicated, like so knowledgeable, so enthusiastic about the city's history and preserving it and teaching about it. So really the community engaged aspect of this research has gone like far and beyond what I was hoping for in planning a research project that took place out in the local community.
Good. I like that. Yeah, that's one of the things I was going to say definitely is the community collaborative partners that we've been able to maintain over time and people that we've met that are doing work that we're doing, you know what I mean? And that we've been able to just give maybe additional, insight into an additional vision, and maybe use some of our influence to talk about what they're doing. They can use some of their influence to talk about what we're doing. And so I am really excited about that for sure. I think for me, what I would love to come out of this research is information about Zora and her life and the impact that she made, and then Black life in the 20th century and in Black life in Jacksonville in the early 20th century. I'm really excited about that information, not just being at UNF, not just being here and then, people from all different sides of the city having to come here to see it. But I'm really excited about being able to create a platform that is digitized and that we can put in, museums on the north side or on the west side in the areas that Zora Neale Hurston lived. And so, I just think about as a Jacksonville native, I think the first time I came to UNF, I was a senior in high school, during, it was prom or something like that, or graduation, right? We had our graduation at UNF.
Oh, nice.
But I'd never been to UNF. And so if I were coming up in Jacksonville now, how would I get access? It's great to have the information, but how do you get access to the information? And so to create better access, right, so that we can increase the city's identity, right, so that we can increase the city's pride, so that younger kids who are being born and raised here can say, oh, I have something to be proud of when I see a Zora Neale Hurston movie or people talk about her on the larger national and global scene. You can say, oh, she lived in the city that I lived in, or she actually lived a street from where I live, and that's something to be proud of. And it gives you a sense of hope and gives you a sense of pride. So it provides a place pride that I'm looking for this project to hopefully do for the city. And some of the things that I think have come out that I've been excited about is Zora Neale Hurston's family influence in Bethel Baptist Church, which my family were members of Bethel Baptist Church. And so to see that kind of connection there has really been cool. I also enjoy learning about her research on the railroad workers. And so her interest in the working class and some of the worker songs that I think we've talked about with a couple of our community partners. And so that's really been interesting. And I think just learning about Black life in Jacksonville in the early 20th century, about La Villa and all of those areas that have just been, that were, little Black meccas essentially. People saying Harlem was the La Villa of the North and that sort of thing. So that's been really exciting. So just all the different things I've been learning about Jacksonville as a whole that I didn't know, that gives me more pride, that I hope we can put together in like a blog, a YouTube series, some type of digital or physical platform that we can have at museums or schools that other students can see and also be proud of. So I hope did I answer the question? Sometimes I talk and I don't really be answering the question.
I was going to say, I think that's beautiful. And working across disciplines and that's already doing the connection work on so many different levels. So connecting UNF even more than it already is to the community, connecting to history and pride. It's beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kennedy, is there anything you'd like to come out of this collaboration or that you're so far particularly excited about?
I think the thing I most want to come out of this is just giving Zora back some of her humanity, because the time that we're studying is such a formative time in like kids' lives, and we know nothing about what happened, and we don't know how that could have impacted her as an adult. And we always talk about her as the icon that she is with anthropology and English, but I want to go back and give her some of her humanity and go back to like her roots.
Oh, yeah.
It's already been amazing. And maybe this is a little teaser for another episode, but the work Kennedy did on putting a family tree together and tracing her roots, I see her so much more as a human with connections, with family. I'd never learned about her family connections or her history or brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles. So that I think you're working towards that goal
Yeah.
wonderfully.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Thank you.
Cool.
Nice. Yeah.
So you said that was the last question?
That was the last
Mhm.
Okay,
question.
well, how long has it been? Maybe about 20 minutes, I think that. Oh, yeah, maybe about 30 minutes. Okay. I guess any last minute thoughts before we end?
I'm excited to keep this podcast going.
Yeah, yeah,
Talk more.
definitely. And thank you to all our supporters and different people. And I guess, I don't know if we'll talk more about the different funding opportunities that we've had that people
Yeah.
contributed monetarily, as well as our
Mhm.
department, sociology, anthropology, and social work department, who's helped out and just helped us create an ethnography lab that we've
Yes.
been able to use, and we'll talk more about that. And just the different ways that we've had a lot of support.
Yeah.
So
Grateful
definitely
for that.
thank you to those people, and we'll talk more about them as well. But yeah, with that being said, thank you so much. We'll also have more, I guess, as we have maybe an Instagram page or whatever other social media things that
Yeah.
we'll have. We'll get that information out to you so you can follow us as we continue to do this research and uncover Zora Neale Hurston's life in Jacksonville. Sounds good.
Nice.
Have a great day.